Hi guys, my name's Tyler and I'm starting this new YouTube channel because I've been thinking for a while, man, how can I help people connect more intimately and deeply with Jesus? And recently I had an inspiration of how to do it over YouTube. And this is gonna be really different than other YouTube channels because, you know, normally on a YouTube channel, the person that runs it comes on camera and talks or, you know, influences. And this is not my attempt at being an influencer. This is a really different idea because what I want to do is come on live in sessions on the channel and actually not talk. I want to create a community of people that come together and just wait on the Lord together and learn how to connect with Jesus personally. And I think it's a real inspiration because on the one hand, people have trouble today, like doing it by themselves because we are so distracted in our culture, you know, and like, you're like, oh, I'm going to try and spend a little time with the Lord. And then you get a text and you're like, oh, I better respond to that. And then you like, you know, the phone rings and then someone calls and you're like, you just off to the races, right? But then on the flip side, I found that when Christians all come together for like a prayer meeting or something, it very often, so much of the time, ends up being like chit chat and, you know, talking about the problems of the world and not so much time just being with the Lord. And I think that so many problems that Christians have today stem from the fact that they don't know how just to connect personally with Jesus. And so I thought, whoa, well, I didn't really think it. It kind of like dropped in from above. What if you created a YouTube channel where people are not physically together and they can't talk with each other, but it's like this group accountability. They've set aside the time where I know I need to spend time with my Lord. And so you come on and we wait on the Lord together. I know from my personal experience that being able, knowing how to connect with the Lord is the like centerpiece of how you do the Christian life. And without that, it's like you don't know, God seems far away and you don't know how to like connect with him so you can receive what you need from the Lord. So this first video is going to be different than the other videos, first of all, because it's not a live session, but also I want to say something about how I believe we can connect with the Lord. It's kind of like a little teaching so that in the live sessions, we don't need to do this. I can just point you to this video if you want some instruction. So a couple things about how to connect with the Lord, okay? First thing, I think that people have a hard time realizing that God is here in the room right now. Like the Lord is here. As I said that, I'm like, whoa, I see the Lord. So the Bible says that God is light and that every good thing comes down from the Father of light. And so we are often like fish swimming in the ocean and we don't even realize that we are in water. And for Christians, God is the water. And we are in an ocean of God's presence and you don't even realize it. But it's like, if you took the fish out of the water, he would realize pretty quickly, oh, I think I know what water is and I think I like it and I'd like to be put back in now, you know? And the difference between, you know, water and God is that God is a person. And so he knows how to reveal himself to us, the fish. And so this is what I say to people about how to come into the Lord's presence. So God is light and there is light in the room right now. The light is the goodness. It's like any sense of peace or goodness, gentleness, kindness that you feel in your midst right now. I see that as like a trail of breadcrumbs. And all you have to do to find the source of the breadcrumbs is just to turn to that light, the goodness that's here right now, and look at the one that the breadcrumbs are coming from. And that might seem obscure, but if you try it, you'll see that Like the light is coming from a place, and that place is a person, and his name is Jesus, you know? And I'm creating this video for Christians. I'm not trying to convince you that it's Jesus. If you don't know it's Jesus, then I don't know, you should, you know, go to a different YouTube channel. But if you know that it's Jesus, then all you have to do is turn to the light and then turn to the one who the light is coming from. And there he is. It's that easy. Like the Lord's here right now, and all you have to do is turn to him. I want to tell you a little bit about how I grew in my relationship with Jesus, spirit to spirit, like how I learned how to just be with him. Because I think it's really, it speaks toward how this works and how easy it is. So when I was first a Christian, I very quickly decided that I wanted to go into ministry. It's a long story. So I was interning at the time for this Christian minister in Manhattan. And I lived in this apartment building that was attached to the church itself. And I had a key to the church. And because I lived in the building, you know, the people that worked there, they would go home at night. And I was at the time like amazed by the fact that Jesus was real and that he wanted me to know him and he wanted to know me. And so I was looking for ways to just connect with him, be with him. And so I had this idea one night, like, oh, like a church is a place where God is. So I should, you know, go into the church tonight and just sit there and maybe I'll be able to like meet with the Lord, right? So I go into the church and it's one of these old, you know, like sort of beautiful New York churches with the wooden pews and everything. And I go in and I sit down and I do what I was just talking about. I turn to the Lord. And I didn't have any agenda, like, you know, like I wasn't like, Lord, like do this in my life, do that in the world, you know, and I wasn't like asking any deep questions, like wrestling with theology. I was just there to be with him. And, you know, I've said a lot of times, like, I think a problem that a lot of Christians have in their spiritual life is that they'd rather have Jesus on a doctor's like operation table where they can kind of dissect him and pick him apart and figure him out instead of being at a banquet table with him, a dinner table, and just like interacting with him and being with him. And so when I was in the church in Manhattan at night, I was at a dinner table with the Lord, and I just would sit there and just be with him. And I was just so amazed by the fact that here we were together. And I would sit there for hours with him, hours into the night. And I did this for months, and months turned into a couple years. And it wasn't like every night I did this and I always did it for hours. It was just like whenever the opportunity seemed to arise, I would just go downstairs, I'd go into the church, and I'd wait on the Lord. And so here's what happened as that developed. Over time, I started realizing, like, I'd go downstairs, I'd wait on the Lord, I'd spend time with him, and then, you know, I'd get tired and I'd go upstairs to my apartment and I'd go to bed. And eventually I started realizing I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like, oh my gosh, you're still here. Like the Lord would still be with me in the same way that he had been with me the night before. And before that, I kind of had two lives. I had like my time with Jesus when I was like being with him, and then I'd have the rest of my life where I was kind of like not thinking about the Lord. And I was still the fish swimming in the water. I just wasn't thinking about the fact that, hey, I'm with the water. But what started happening was I started becoming aware, like, whoa, you're with me all day long. And I started, my life started becoming, it came to this place where I'm like, I'm with the Lord. And I would recognize his presence. And then what started happening was I started seeing that he was trying to lead me all the time. Like the Holy Spirit is always speaking to us. We're just not paying attention. But as I started having all these times where I was paying attention to the Lord, it started becoming something that I was aware of in my whole life. And so that started happening, but then all these things, these spiritual things started happening in my life that I think so many Christians today are longing for, but they don't know how to get there. They don't know how to connect those dots. So things started happening like the Lord started speaking to me for other people, like about other people. And I'd be like, I remember one time I had one of these sessions where I was sitting with the Lord, and then I got hungry, and it's like, it's the city, so it's open 24 hours a day. And I got hungry, and I was like, I'll go to a restaurant and I'll get something to eat. And so I go to this restaurant, and I'm sitting there, but I'm still in the presence of the Lord. And the Lord starts talking to me. I'm at this little table by the bar, and the Lord starts talking to me for this random guy at this bar in the city. And he's like this 40, 50-year-old guy. He doesn't look particularly like friendly or talkative, He's like he's facing that way, and I'm like sitting here. But the Lord's like, why don't you strike up a conversation with him? Because he started telling me stuff about this guy. And I'm like, are you sure, Lord? But it's like, he's just leading me, like, yeah, do it. So I just strike up a conversation, and I start talking to him, it's like it has to come out of me. I'm like, hey, have you been struggling with this thing? And it doesn't really matter what the thing was. And he was like, how did you know? Like, who are you? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, and the cool thing is that it was so surprising to me that it wasn't like, well, I'm a Christian, I'm a prophet, and the Lord has spoken this to me so that you'll be saved. It was like, I know, this is so weird. It was so weird to me. I'm like, this is crazy, but I think the Lord just said it to me because he wanted you to know that he sees it and he wants to help you with that. And the guy, we're at like a public bar in the city, and he just starts crying, right? Like at the bar. And it was just this phenomenal experience where like the Lord touched someone, much to everyone's surprise, including me. And it started happening all the time, where the Lord was revealing people's hearts to me. And what he showed me was that, the Bible says when you draw near to the Lord will draw near to you. But what also happens is that when the Lord draws near to you, he also brings other people to you, because when you become someone that has the Lord's heart, it's like you're a safe place for him to send his people that are hurting. And so it's like the closer I got to the Lord, the more he would bring people to me and send me to people, because I was able to bring what was really in his heart to them because I knew his heart, So many other things started happening. I started having miraculous healings where like the Lord would, like, you have a problem in your life, and so often, we're like, Lord, I have this problem. Where are you? But for me, it was like, I knew where he was. He was right here. And instead of being like, Lord, I have this problem. Like, where are you? Help me with it. It was like, Lord, I have this problem. Like, what should I do about it? And he would show me, what he wanted to do with it. And I would like say, okay, let's do that. And he would do it. I know that sounds so like simplistic and easy, and you're like, that's too good to be true. But I'm telling you, it's not, if you develop that kind of relationship with the Lord. And so many of the problems that we have in our lives, it's like we don't know how to find the answer. But the answer isn't just finding the answer to the problem. The answer is learning how to be with him so that you can find the one who has the answer, or you can be with the one who has the answer. And there's so many other things I could say that started happening, like crazy, like divine appointments, where like one time, I just think it's worth like saying these things because it's exciting. Like one time I was abroad, I was looking at a seminary in England. And so I'm in England, I'm walking in the streets of London. And I'm on this really busy street. I don't remember the name of it, but it's like, a city street, thousands, literally, it was really busy, like thousands of people walking around. And I'm walking by myself, minding my own business. And I literally walk directly into this woman who was from England, but went to my church in New York City. And I didn't know she had gone to England. She didn't know I had gone to England. We weren't like necessarily very close, but we both were serving as interns, like thinking we're going into ministry. So we both served on the altar together at this Episcopal church. And we literally walk right into each other. And I'm like, so-and-so, like, what are you doing here? And she's like, Tyler, what are you doing here? And you know, we're talking, and she's like, Tyler, I have always, it sounds strange, but she had said, like, I've always wanted to introduce like people from my church to my family in England, you know, because it's like my whole life that's over here, and it's totally disconnected from my life in New York City. Would you be willing to come and meet my mother, you know, who lives in London? And I was like, yeah, let's go do it. And so it's like this amazing like, you know, what are the chances, you know, first of all, that we'd even be there at the same time, but we're on the same street and there are thousands of people. Like I could have been on the other side of the street or like 3 people away, and we're just like, don't even see each other. And we walk directly into each other. And it's because when you're with the Lord, he just orders your steps, and like all of these things, these divine conspiracies can unfold because you're going the way that he's leading. So I'm saying all of this to say that so many of the things that we are longing for in our walk with the Lord are missing because we are not taking the time in our culture, in our lives today, to just be with Jesus. So, all that to say, what this channel is going to be is a time when I'm going to have these live sessions. We're going to come on, and what we're going to do is we're going to come into the light. We're going to put everything else down, put it to the side, and we're just going to be with Jesus, and we're going to sit there with him. And I think it could be really weird because obviously, like, who goes on YouTube and then doesn't like talk? Like, it's kind of like the whole point is to like tell people stuff. But see, instead of me telling you stuff, the idea is this accountability group where we all come together and put the time aside so Jesus can tell us stuff. And I think it's either going to be really dumb or it's going to be genius. And I think it's the genius of the Lord. So I'm going to set a specific time. I haven't done that yet, but I don't know. So maybe I'll make another. I don't know how I'm going to communicate that to people, but we're going to do it, and we're just going to come and we're going to be with the Lord together. And I really believe that this, though people don't realize it, this is the missing link in the Christian life today. And so if you are willing, and obviously it doesn't need to be on this channel, like maybe you just hear this and you're like, I'm going to do that, you know? If you will take the time to invest in your relationship with Jesus, where you just come into his presence and sit with him without an agenda, you will be shocked at how that changes your life with him and your walk with him. I can tell you, when I first started doing this, I had never been, I was just in a place of being amazed that God was even real. I was knew nothing about Christianity, anything, and I didn't know about the prophetic. I didn't know about that God would speak to you really. I didn't know that like he would, lead you down the streets of London and bump you into someone. There's so many things that I didn't know, but I didn't need to know them because all I needed to know was that Jesus was real. He loved me. And he wanted to be with me. And I really wanted to be with him. And if you will take the time to just be with the one that your heart desires, he will change so much of your life and how it's unfolding. And he will draw you into his purpose just through that time together. So I've said too much already. I'm going to end this video, but I'm really excited about where this could lead. And although I don't think you can talk to each other on YouTube, or maybe you can, I don't know, I'm excited to do this with you. So God bless you, and hopefully to see you on those videos soon.